Welcome to the House of Horror podcast for June 21st, 2011. This is episode number 10. My name is Joe.
And I'm Tom.
This week, a little different. We're going to do the best and worst of the 90s. Of course, you can listen to the 70s discussion. I'm pretty sure it's on Rabbit and Red Radio, episode 38, with, I think it was Vince and Alex on that episode. Then we have episode 40. We're on the last segment of episode 40. On Rabbit and Red Radio with Michael J. and Vince as well. And we're taking it from here. Episode 90.
Episode 90?
What did I say? I said episode 10, doing the 90s.
All right, best and worst of 90s horror.
I'm really anxious to hear your list.
It was very difficult to narrow stuff down to just 10.
You had 10.
I decided to do a top 10. I mean, that's normally what you would do when making a best and worst list, but it was difficult and it took some time, but I'm pretty satisfied with the outcome.
Okay. Let's jump into mine first, actually.
Yeah, sure.
I actually just came up with 6. I had to narrow it down. I think I probably had around 9, maybe.
Okay.
Actually, not too much for me. So I have a top 6. Number 6 being Halloween H2O, which has always been a favorite of mine in the very large filmography of the Halloweens. How many are there now? It's got to be like 10? 10?
Yeah, well, yeah. I remember Resurrection was number 8, and they were going to do Halloween 9. That never happened.
So we're at 10.
Yeah, well, if you count Rob Zombies, 10 and 11.
That's how I am counting them.
10, I'm sorry. Yes, you're correct.
So H2O, I mean, we've talked about it before on the show, but it really is the Jamie Lee Curtis show.
Yeah.
And she is sexy in that movie. I think we both agreed.
Absolutely.
As it says on the back of the Blu-ray box.
Oh, totally.
And I think it's just as iconic as... I think it's one of the most iconic movies in the franchise, especially going back to its roots. If you look at the first one, even if you look at the second one, which I'm not a huge fan of, it's okay. But, I mean, almost completing that trilogy of films.
Right.
And ignoring most of them, in between there.
Yeah.
But I really have a love for the film. We've discussed the masks. The different masks that are throughout the film. It's very easy to ignore it because at that point, if you had gone up until, because that's technically 7. Is that 7? And then Resurrection after that?
Yep.
So that's, so that's 7 technically. So if you watch 4, 5, and 6, I mean, there's goofier moments in the franchise than H2O with the different masks and stuff like that. It definitely shows its, even rewatching it recently, it definitely shows its age. What was it, 98? But, I mean, it's pretty funny. I was just talking to Justin last night about that movie, and he said, it's just the look and the feel of that opening scene with the Sandman playing. It's just so great.
It is. It's such a great setup. You could tell they totally respected the franchise.
Yeah, and it's goofy in the opening scene as much as it's serious. When you go into that house, you got Joseph Gordon-Levitt with the hockey mask on.
Yeah.
You got, the way he dies is pretty funny, but it's pretty brutal at the same time. It's off screen, but we see the end result. And I mean, it really just shows you what kind of movie it's going to be. It's going to be a fun movie that pays homage here and there throughout the series, and we're going to have return of Laurie Strode. Where is her character? And I just think she steals the show. And we talked about one of the most iconic moments, pretty much. I would probably put this in, if we put maybe a top 25 moments, I would probably put Jamie Lee sending the kids out. We talked about her going up the hill with the fuck's that thing called? With the hatchet, right? Is that a hatchet? Oh, no, it's not a hatchet. That's a axe.
Right.
With the axe and just screaming Michael's name.
Yeah.
That's really, that's iconic to me. And it gives me the chills every time I watch it.
Yeah, it was really well done, especially, I mean, the Jamie Lee Curtis, she definitely did steal the show. You're totally right. And it's great to get like an update on her. And what was really nice was that in H2O, it still felt like Jamie Lee Curtis's character from the first Halloween, but you could tell she actually matured. Whereas you have something in Scream 4 where the characters in the fourth one, David Arquette and Courtney Cox, are nothing like how they are in the original. That's a
great point.
They're nothing like how they were in the first couple films. So.
And at that point in her career, she was an icon as an actress. So it's so great for her to come back and just do this for the fans, really. Because I think she's been quoted in interviews saying, I did it for the fans.
Yeah, and that's a great thing. I respect her a lot for doing that. Very much appreciated, Jamie.
It's a good film. Let's crack into my top 5. Number 5 being... Well, that's kind of odd. This might be a little low. I don't know. I mean, these are... I tried to put them in order, but I mean, I already kind of disagree with my 5 and 4. But I'll just stick with it. Number 5 being Silence of the Lambs.
Okay. Nice.
A film that I saw not too long ago for the first time, and talk about a psychological horror film that just totally puts you in the mindset of certain characters.
Yeah, and it's very hard to communicate that the psychology behind serial killers on film. You see so many films that attempt it, but they just fail. But Silence of the Lambs really captures it nicely, and that's why it's such a hit.
And you look at that movie, it's so reminiscent of something like Psycho.
Right.
Scenes where there's dialogue between the two main characters. I mean, if you look at that scene where, I forget the main character's name, but it's Jodie Foster, right?
Clarice.
Thank you. How stupid am I? Having that first encounter with him just coming around the corner, and obviously it's that great iconic shot of him just standing up straight, looking at her, almost sniffing her out. And having that dialogue scene exchange between them two, you could compare it to Norman Bates and her name is Marion in the film.
Marion
Crane. Having their first encounter in the back parlor.
Right.
But the difference is here is the environment and the atmosphere. He's between the glass, and he's already known as a serial killer.
Right.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, this movie is completely different type of horror film. It's well respected, obviously, because it won 5 Oscars. He's probably one of my favorite characters in horror.
Yeah, he totally steals this show, and also just Jodie Foster is just amazing in that film.
I like her a lot.
She's great.
I'm trying to remember the ending to that film.
The ending to that film is really what terrified me, especially the night vision scene when she's in his house.
Yeah, I have to rewatch that movie.
I mean, I only just saw this for the first time about 4 years ago, and this came out in
91.
91. And to watch this a couple years ago for the first time, that night vision scene still holds up. I'm literally on the edge of my chair. I don't get like that. I was literally sucked in like, holy shit. It was just incredibly suspenseful.
It's just such a character-driven movie if you get down to the
nitty-gritty.
Of course. It's not even the plot. It's character-driven to the max.
Right.
And, I mean, the sequels if you check the sequels, they're not anything special at all.
Yeah, I didn't think Hannibal was anything special. Red Dragon, forgettable. Hannibal Rising, and
I didn't even go that far.
Exactly.
But, I mean, the last scene in Hannibal, obviously, where they crack Ray Liotta's head off.
Yeah. Okay.
But, I mean, that up until that point,
the
movie loses me.
Yeah, exactly. I only remember the ending of Hannibal. I forgot the...
That's pretty funny, so do I.
Yeah, and I'm a huge Julianne Moore fan, but I'm sorry. It's all Jodie Foster right there.
Does she cry in that movie?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think she does, right?
Probably cries at everything.
I think so. If you tell them about the YouTube video that we
if you guys can, for shits and gigs, go to youtube.com, type in Julianne Moore loves to cry, and it is literally like 20 different movies.
I think
clips.
Hannibal's in there. I think it is.
It probably is. If just Julianne Moore just crying, and she cries in every movie, regardless of the genre. It's just sad music playing in the background. And if you follow Julianne Moore's films, if you're a big fan of the actress, check it out. It's quite hysterical.
I have to agree. You sent it to me a while back. I had a good laugh over it. I think is it really? How long is the video?
I don't know, a couple minutes.
Is it 4? I think it's like 4 minutes. Just
it's probably like 5 minutes or so.
Yeah. Next up, I got Candyman.
Okay, that one was good.
Which I just saw recently for the first time, and it really scared me. I think maybe that's why I have it over Silence of the Lambs, because in retrospect, you look at the movies and it's like, okay, driven. But I mean, I always have a soft spot in my heart for scary horror films, and I think that elevates it.
Absolutely.
And Candyman scared me and I just saw it for the first time. I think within this year, maybe last year,
Nice.
late last year, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm not interested. It's one of those. I think there's many sequels. Am I not right?
Yeah.
Not interested at all. Once I knew there were sequels, I didn't even blink. I was like, I'm fine with one. I don't care if they're great. It's one of those franchises. It's kind of like The Matrix. I feel the same way. I've always heard different things about the sequels, and I'm like, oh, I'm okay with one. I don't need to move forward in this universe. So Candyman's really good. A leading heroine. You have to love that.
Yeah.
You have to love her.
Yeah,
She's
I
pretty
love
hot,
her.
too.
Virginia Madsen, I love her. Haunting in Connecticut, Sideways. I think she's a fantastic actress, and she's just great in Candyman. And what I liked about Candyman is that Tony Todd's character is actually scary.
I
You
agree.
know? He has that hook and everything.
Yeah,
See
yeah,
when
yeah.
the hook's coming out of the mirror gets me every time,
When he comes out of the whole mirror and how they play with, like, the whole movie's like an investigation.
Right.
I just think it's really good, and it keeps you. I don't know. It's just thoroughly interesting and thoroughly entertaining, and you have the scares, and I think the opening is great.
Oh, yeah.
Who could forget the opening with just standing in front of the mirror and saying the name?
Yeah, what kid
Yeah.
hasn't done that growing up?
Yeah,
you know?
it's really, because if you look at something like what came first, it wasn't was Beetlejuice before this, but this was an urban myth. This is a totally different thing.
Absolutely. This is a legend that every kid knows. Oh, the Candyman's going to get you. So I think this movie establishes that beautifully.
And the whole thing with the bees and the way his backstory has him like he's dressed like what, an 1800s.
He's got that big coat on.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I remember the garage scene when he has a deep voice. He's really perfectly cast.
Yeah, he's just great. Tony Todd is
and
awesome.
obviously that's probably going to be his best role. The role he's known for,
Right,
for the rest of his life. And I just think it's more than solid. It has the scares, it has the mystery and the main character to support it, and it has an awesome villain, if you will.
Right.
And I like the ending a lot. At the end of
This is one I got to check out again. Saw it long ago. So.
Next up, number 3, I got Scream.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was thinking that would be number 1 for you. Please elaborate.
Scream is a classic. I mean, there's no other way to put it. If I think classic horror, I mean, Scream is one of the movies that pops up in my mind automatically. I've never seen it as a above and beyond film. Like, I wouldn't say Scream is amazing, but I think Scream obviously is a groundbreaking film for its time, and I would even say way ahead of its time, where now it would almost seem more appropriate for that to happen, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Even though it was perfect timing. I mean, that was the year after Halloween 6. And Freddy had died years before that. So, I mean, I think you had Wes Craven's New Nightmare 2 years before that. So people were already rebooting and reinventing, and here comes Scream. And I mean,
a nice iconic film in the genre.
I just can't believe how iconic. See, people would have debates over the masks and stuff. I think the Scream mask is if not number 1, top 3 easy. That mask is so iconic. And it's just great the way they designed and the aesthetic of how scary that figure is moving through a suburban household.
Yeah, that opening scene with Drew Barrymore is one of up there with the original When a Stranger Calls, scariest openings of a horror film, period.
I would agree with that.
I mean, when you see Ghostface running down the hallway, terrifying.
I think of that first glimpse. I always remember that first glimpse
time
of
you're
him.
like, holy shit, what was that?
Him just passing.
Terrifying.
It's awesome, and
it still is just as scary today.
And I mean, if you look at even the sequels, they do a great job. I'll even give credit to 4 in the opening where it has that long shot of him running through. You can't beat it. Him running through the suburban household, running after the girl screaming.
Was that? Are you talking about the scene where he was kind of up by the front door of the house and? Because that scene in Scream 4 I did like, where someone's like looking through like a the peephole on the front door of the house, and this Ghostface comes like running up to the door. They showed it in the commercials.
Oh,
all the
in
time.
the commercials. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the wide shot inside the house. I think it's after the third, after stab 6, stab 7, and then that third one where he throws the girl through the window, and then he comes out and she runs across, and it cuts to a wide angle of just her screaming going towards the opposite side of the kitchen, I guess, and him just running after her full force with his knife. And I don't know, it's a scary image, just that shot, just the shot. I just think you can't beat it in terms of, Michael Myers is outside of a suburban neighborhood. I think he's the king of like that outside creepy Halloween feeling.
Right.
And I think Ghostface is the inside he'll pop out of your closet kind of character. And
Yeah.
you just can't beat it, you know? And that movie is just so... I mean, the kills are iconic. It just shows you why all these movies that we had just talked about, Mary Hatchet, Scream 4, even its own predecessor, Scream 4, cannot match it because they're trying to remake the movie, and they can't. It's brutal.
Right.
You know, and... I mean, I agree with everything that everyone says. It redefined the genre. I don't even want to, just... Everyone knows Drew Barrymore's the best scene ever. I agree with everything above and beyond. I think Kevin Williamson is the genius behind it all, in my opinion. Craven puts his sparkle on it, and everything worked out for the better. To me, Wes Craven is defined through Scream, not A Nightmare on Elm Street. He brings his A game to Scream at the end of the day. And, I mean, it's a classic. It's just a classic movie.
It is.
It has every single thing that you want. And, it mirrors the original Halloween so much. If you were to watch Halloween and Scream, that's a great double bill. They reference it more than a million times.
That's
but,
great.
Even rewatching the original Halloween recently, and we had talked about H2O, how much it references Scream in H2O. So it goes back and forth between the franchises. But Halloween, I think, that's where the classic line. I think it's probably the first time in a horror movie where I think someone says, "I'll be right back." If I'm not, I mean, I could be wrong. They could have said that someone else, but
right.
I mean, that's where he was mirroring from. He was taking Halloween and saying, "Okay, here are the rules that we've done this for almost 30 years. Now I'm going to take that, put Halloween as the template, and add a couple sprinkled references in there." And I mean, you got a classic. And I would argue that the Ghostface character may be more iconic than someone like Michael Myers at this point.
Okay. Bold statement.
It is. But I'm a huge Michael Myers fan. I mean, they're really neck and neck.
Okay.
Really. Number 2, The Blair Witch Project.
Nice.
This movie is, if not the probably the only movie that just fucks you up mentally in terms of what am I scared of really at the end of this movie. I remember watching it the first time about 2 years ago and not liking it, but the ending fucked me up. Rewatched it about 3 times since. It's become one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And that's funny. I mean, that doesn't really... I just think it's so different. And it's so, like, what am I really scared of? I'd have 100 conversations with people saying, you're scared of sticks, the dark, and screaming. That's it.
Right.
There's nothing in this movie other than what I just said. And it's your imagination gone wild. And the fact that it's shot the way it's shot, I think this and Cloverfield, it because of the way it's shot, makes it that much more effective. It's just, it scares the shit out of you because it allows your imagination to run wild and not bombard you with imagery. I just think it's genius within itself because the movie's called The Blair Witch Project, and 9.5 out of 10 directors would probably, or people behind the scenes would probably say, we need a witch at the end. We need something to pay off. And the ending to that movie, even the first time, not really liking it as much as I do to this day, I said to myself, that last 5 minutes was awesome. It probably top 20 endings in a horror movie. And I just can't stress. I rewatched it recently and I saw a perfect setup in terms of interviewing everyone in the town. Here's the myth, blah, blah, blah. And then going into the woods and proving that right. And just in such subtle ways. I watched it for the 3rd time recently. And I don't know if you've ever caught this, but I saw the camera pan up just for a minute, and it was in the climax of the movie, just for a split second, and you saw the mist that one of the old guys was talking about.
Oh, wow.
And I flipped out. I go, holy shit, it's the fucking mist. Because the guy said early in the movie that the mist comes. He said, I don't remember the exact line, but he said the mist comes and the witch is there, blah, 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 something to back it up. And that kind of subtle filmmaking. And the fact that the whole movie is basically nothing. If you really get down to the nitty-gritty, it's sticks, it's darkness, it's people screaming.
It's them lost in the woods.
It's them lost in the woods. Nothing else. And I just think that's so creative. Just beyond, like, it's you and your buddies out in the woods one night making a movie. It's every kid's dream, and they did it. It's crazy. There'll never be anything else like it. You know, you say Paranormal Activity, you say Cloverfield, Last Exorcist. These are handheld camera movies.
They try.
But they try. And they have to go above and beyond to scare you. But the fact that they made this handheld camera movie thing, you know, this was original concept, obviously. And I even talk about picking up on Blu-ray recently. I haven't popped it in yet, but I remember watching it on DVD and not having it be in surround sound. You know, totally complimenting the filmmaking, like, this is really a home movie. This is not, you know what I mean? Like, when you watch Last Exorcism and the score kicks in, and you watch Paranormal Activity and it's in surround sound, it's very conscious that it's a movie. Blair Witch never gave in. Blair Witch always stayed, this is true. This is real.
They stayed in character,
yeah,
I guess, if you will.
To this day. You have it on Blu-ray, and I'm pretty sure it's not even in surround sound. You'll see, if you're in a surround sound environment, you'll hear voices coming out of all 5 or 6 speakers. You'll never have a score kick in. You'll never have nothing. It's beautiful. Even the picture quality is still the original picture quality, a little updated. You know, it's Blu-ray bullshit, but it's still. I like that. Like when I went on Blu-ray.com, I think it was a 2.5 out of 5. It's like I like that because
it wouldn't have the same effect if it was a 5 out of 5 Blu-ray transfer.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't sell out, ever.
It takes away from the nostalgia.
Agreed. Not even nostalgia. The filmmaking in general, staying with the gimmick, almost. I don't even want to say gimmick. That's doing it a disservice. Staying with the originality. You know?
Right.
Never, ever giving in. Where, you know, how many years? 17 years later. Coming out on Blu-ray, and fuck it. It's a handheld camera movie that came out in 94. That's it.
Well, it was, let's see. Well, it takes place in 94, but, you know.
I'm sorry, what year? It was in 99?
It was a 99 film, but the film takes place in 94.
So it was 11 years old. 12?
That 12, would be 12. Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, there you go. And it brings me to my number 1, which might shock a lot of people, but I would probably introduce this film as the best horror film. This is a bold statement. I'm very conscious.
Right.
The best horror film in 40 years is Scream 2.
I knew it was going to be
and
Scream 2.
Scream 2, to me, to this day, even on a 10th rewatch, is a perfect mystery film, even if you know the mystery. And because it's set up so just every single scene, it could be anyone. We love these characters. Everyone is interesting, down to the black cameraman, to throwaway characters like Cindy's
Portia de Rossi, like her, like the two what was it, frat girls, Rebecca Gay.
Yeah. Everyone is interesting. No scene is a throwaway.
There's no bullshit.
And I think Scream 2 has the best setups ever. Like, I always talk about Cece's death, my favorite death in the Scream franchise. The best dialogue in that scene, comparing that scene to every single scene in Scream 4, does not compare.
Right.
Even Scream 3. I would even argue Scream. You have, I'm trying to think of the scenes, the intro at the movie theater is the best.
Classic.
I would probably say, I mean, Barrymore's scene is obviously awesome. And that could give her, way to, give it a run for its money. Excuse me. Give it a run for its money in terms of, okay, we have to try to at least come close to that scene. And them even showing it on the
screen, kinda.
Exactly. Like, it's totally meta. It's ridiculously meta. And it's like even the black characters at the beginning saying that all black characters die in horror movies, and the fact that you have a cameraman that's black and you have a best friend of Cindy's that's black. And Jamie Kennedy is on his A game in this movie. And just as well as the first movie, and not afraid. Talk about, this whole bullshit of new decade, new rules. This is the movie that shows you that. They kill off their main character, their heart and gold of the franchise, Jamie Kennedy, in this film. In one of the best scenes in Scream, period. That courtyard scene where they're trying to find the...
In the daytime.
In the daytime, thank you. In the daytime. Not afraid to do it at night. Cindy is a struggling character. She's hot in this movie. Courtney Cox is hot. We had talked about that a couple podcasts ago. The best kills, the best setups. That theater ending is awesome. The unveiling of the mask is amazing.
Even the killer's motives, we've seen it before, but it's amazing.
I disagree. When I saw that motive, I said to myself, that was my favorite motive ever.
I totally
love that
it.
motive better than the first one, better than
No, I agree with you. From both characters' motives, you have the psycho film student, great motive. Then you have the psycho mother from the mother of Billy. Is that holy shit? Isn't that not one of the best motives? Totally, like it's so believable, and to the fact that I'd be like, you know what, I would let her go because it's like she has every right to get back.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
Where does the line get drawn? But it's like, oh, she's killing. It's the psycho mother. She's killing for like her child, and like the way she discusses it and justifies it, you're almost like, maybe we shouldn't even put this woman in handcuffs. So she's kind of right.
Yeah, what was I gonna say? That sound booth scene with Courtney Cox doing it and stand in the sound booth, the best.
It's like they're playing hide and seek. Terrifying.
Oh, it's the best. It takes you back to 5-year-old self. You're right, playing hide and seek, not hearing anything, and the sound cutting out. The best scene and the best part of that scene is you can't hear Dewey screaming. You can't hear Dewey, and then it's reversed where you see Gail's reaction. You can't see her.
And when he's banging
screaming.
Yeah, when he's banging on the glass.
Oh, it's terrifying.
You're just like, holy shit!
Look at that image. That image of him throwing chairs against the glass.
So scary.
Is scary. And again, the theater ending. Again, the new decade, new rules. I'll say, why not apply that to Scream 2? Because you have. I mean, look at Cece. I would say Cece is the Drew Barrymore of Scream 2 because she at that point she was pretty big, and you're like, oh look, it's Buffy, and she's gone like
she's
that.
She's watching the horror movie going on,
and she's gone like that. The boyfriend is gone.
Right,
he dies. They have balls to do that, and Jamie Kennedy is gone. Right there, there was the 3 kills. Like I didn't know they were gonna do that. Fuck.
Right. Yeah.
Right there, the motive, the kills, everything is interesting. Cindy is the most interesting character in my opinion in this movie. The sorority house when she reconnect, I just love that scene where everyone's excuse me, going over to Cece's house to see what's going on, and everyone's out of that sorority house at that party, and Cindy went to go get her coat right before she leaves, and the phone goes off, and you're just like, shit. It's just, and then you see Scream going through the house, and then he stabs the guy. I don't know, and they just have these lingering shots on Cindy, and the music kicks in just right, and you just can't believe it's happening again. And even though you saw a movie called Scream 2, it's like, even on 10th rewatch, this movie is like, it could be this person being the killer. I just always feel that way. I feel like the setup is just never going to get old, no matter if you know the killers or not. And I just think it's one of the most. It might be the best horror film. That's why I say I would say the best horror film in 40 years, in terms of a slasher, meta, just has everything.
Yeah.
It has everything you want.
As a film itself, right?
Yeah, and it's the perfect Scream movie in my opinion. It's the definitive Scream movie, and I know most people would say the first one is, but I beg to differ. I think the second one is better, and I would gush and gush and there's nothing wrong with the first one.
So I think it's safe to say we could agree, you and I here now, Scream 2, the best horror sequel, period.
Yes. I can't think of any. Good question. I can't think of any.
Best horror sequel, I would.
Period.
I always think of Scream 2.
That makes sense. Yep. I would probably say yes.
I can't
think of anything.
People that say horror sequels, I always go up Scream 2. That was always what took the cake for me. So.
Yep. It's my favorite. It might be my favorite slasher film of all time.
It's just great. It has so much to offer. It's just there's so many characters and there's so much going on and there's so many different environments. You never lose interest. You're just always so sucked
even that car scene. I totally forgot about that. Just when you think you're safe in a car at a red light.
Yeah.
With 2 guys in the front seat, and then they crash, and you try. That's a great scene.
Graphic.
Oh, that's great.
It is
awesome.
so great. And then just when he pops out and starts stabbing her friend, like, come on.
Oh, it's awesome.
It's just so great.
And you feel bad for the stupid friend, you know?
And I love when Sydney goes over and she's like, I want to see who it is, and takes the mask off. Like, thank God, you know?
Yeah, but it drives me nuts that she still to this day doesn't do it.
Right.
Because everyone would. Everyone would. She goes to run away. It's a great scene. You're right. Great point. She runs away. She's like, fuck, I just got to go see. And you're like, yeah, let's just do this now. You know, why are we waiting?
It's the moment you can tell they put in the film. They wanted to get away from the cliche horror of, hey, let's run away.
And they called themselves on it. They said, stop.
Exactly.
We're going to do this.
Exactly.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
It's very self-aware, and that's why it's so great.
I would even say, if not, see, the first one has that, oh, we're being meta, blah, blah, blah. But this one is like a slasher film. It's what I wanted Scream 4 to be at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's a slasher film that knows exactly, talk about knowing exactly what it is, and trying to talk about sequels throughout, and paying homage to every fucking thing in horror up until that point, and taking these big stars. Everybody's perfectly casted. You know, I'm really jerking it off, but that's how I feel.
Right.
So, okay, Tom, go ahead. Take it away.
All right, man. Let's see. I got a top 10 for you all. And this was very difficult to... Because you mentioned some films just now that are not in my top 10. I'm like, shit, maybe I should have... but you know what? It's just there's so many great ones. It really was difficult. So I got top 10. This is, my personal opinion. All right. Number 10, I put Event Horizon.
Nice.
Really great sci-fi film, and talking to you, it really is aliens in the beginning of the movie.
Alien.
Alien. And like I said in previous podcasts, Sunshine completely ripped this movie off. Not that I'm dissing Sunshine, but just a great space film. It's the Alien film of the 90s to me. That's really all I gotta say. Great cast, from everyone, and just kind of fucks with your mind too, especially at the end. You don't know if it's real or not, but
that ending,
is
so. I actually watched it this week, and we'll be talking about it on Friday. But that ending,
right?
And it's like such a what kind of ending? Like the credits start rolling, you're like, what? It really is a solid film, and it's cool to see it in your top 10 of the decade.
And it's funny because I even went online, and I just like to hear other people's top 10 90s horror. And Event Horizon is included in a lot of people's lists, so it does have that cult status there. It's a shame it was not a huge hit at the box office. It deserves a lot more credit. All right. Really nothing else to say more about that. Moving on to number 9. This was always a favorite of mine growing up. The Urban Legend. It's just always. Oh God.
I actually never saw it, so.
You know what? It's Danielle Harris is in it.
Is she really?
Yeah, she's in it. She's like 20, and she's like 20. She's like 20, and she plays this goth chick, and she's so hot. But it's totally a ripoff of Scream. The whodunit. But it's got the same setup and formula as Scream, and a little bit of I Know What You Did Last Summer in there.
Okay.
And I was a huge fan of it growing up because I actually found it to be kind of, as a slasher film, kind of creepy. I mean, I've always been interested in urban legends, things like that. You got Robert Englund in this talking about the legend of the babysitter at home getting the phone call. So it has that self-awareness that Scream has. And the twist end killer, I mean, I'm not going to spoil it, but great twist at the end. Like the whodunit, holy shit, was not expecting that. Very brave of the movie to do it, and they pulled it off beautifully. So I really do recommend it. Please don't turn it off after 20 minutes. It does get better. You do want to see it for that ending, just because it's like, wow, you don't see this in horror films too often. So the ending is pretty original, I would say. And some of the chase scenes, like I love Tara Reid is being chased.
So this is a slasher film.
It's a college campus movie. Take Scream 2 and add a killer on campus, but the killer is killing people using classic urban legends. And it's a really cool concept, and I think it's executed quite nicely.
I might check this out.
I think you should. They do have it on Blu-ray, so
do you own it?
I don't. I have seen the transfer, and the transfer was pretty solid for 90s.
You're just looking for a nice little sale there?
Yeah. It's one of those movies that you kind of forget about, not because it's like bad or anything. It's because there's so many like it, but you forget. You're like, oh, Urban Legend. I forgot that was. It's nowhere near as good as Scream, but it's pretty close, I would say.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, definitely check that out. Number 8 is House on Haunted Hill, the remake. Huge fan of this movie. Creeps me out every time I see it. Love mental asylum, hospital type horror films, and they really did update it, you know. And I did see the original, and I am a fan of the '59 original with Vincent Price. So, would I say it's better? Well, there you go. You got the generation gap. So of course I'm going to prefer the remake because, you know, it's newer and it has more special effects. But what I loved about House on Haunted Hill was the characters. I really loved Jeffrey Rush's character. I loved his wife's character, played by Famke Janssen, Jean Grey in X-Men movies. She's great in anything she does. And what I love about this film is the scares. There's one scene that I label one of the, for me, top 10 scariest horror movie moments of all time. There's the scene where the actress, the blonde girl, Bridget Wilson, goes downstairs in the asylum with her video camera and starts videotaping. You know, she's kind of a reporter, so it's like, all right, you know, whatever. She's down there and she picks up some ghosts on her video camera, but the ghosts are there staring back at her, and it sounds silly, but it's just done so well. And then she hears this creepy, like, moaning from behind her, turns around, and at the end of the hallway, there's this fucking demon ghost standing there, like, shaking like Michael J. Fox, you know? Just, like, shaking repeatedly, and all of a sudden she's like, what the fuck is that? And it just leaps towards her, and she screams, and it cuts, and it's like, holy shit.
This is not the one with, I always get confused. This is not the one with Liam Neeson.
Right, this is that you were thinking of the Haunting. That's with Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Okay. Yeah.
I will actually be mentioning that film later on.
Okay, but this film is way too goofy, Tom.
You know, you say it's goofy.
Way
I have
too
gone
goofy.
back. I don't see the goofiness. I really don't. I
Look
suggest
at the casting. The casting alone is the goofiest
How?
shit. Jeffrey Rush plays
he is
a goofy
amazing.
character.
No, he's not a goofy character. He's this rich asshole
Chris
character. Chris Kattan is great in this movie. I'm a huge fan of them taking comedians and putting them in a serious role, and I think Chris does a fantastic
I don't think it
job.
does. The movie's
You gotta
lighting
see it
is
again.
too much, and
Oh,
and
come
it's
on.
so Hollywood. It really looks like it's shot on. Who did this? Is it Universal?
This is Warner Brothers.
Okay, but it really does feel like
I
it was
can
shot
see-
on a studio lot.
Okay, I can see
and the
that.
lighting is red and fucking blues and greens. I
No, it's-
remember.
no,
yes,
not
it
at all.
is. Yes, it is. It's
It's-
really ridiculous.
It's not.
Take the fucking what the fuck are they called? Tints? Is it called tints?
Filters.
I'm
tints.
sorry. Yeah, filters off the fucking lights.
They don't have that in this film. I don't remember red.
When
and
they
blue
walk
tints.
into okay, but I do remember this because it's been a while since I saw it. But I do remember the reds, really fucking red. Like when they walk into that house, it's like the stairwell. Something's like hitting them red. I don't know. It just looks too
I've seen this film many times. I have no idea what you're
overly
talking
produced.
about.
It feels overly done.
I suggest you check it out again. It does not have those crazy filters. I think it's actually shot pretty well. So Hollywood, okay, I could see where you're coming from that, but it's just, I think it's a nice haunted house film, and it has some of those creepy scares. Okay, the ending, the CGI, you know, everyone could agree is pretty bad, but it's 1999. But it was just, it's a fun, creepy film, and it's just interesting. I thought it was really good, so that's what I got to say. Number 7, I got Misery with Kathy Bates.
Misery. Never heard of this movie.
Yeah. Oh, dude, come on. This is totally up your alley. This is one of Stephen King's best. This is Kathy Bates plays the greatest role ever. One of the best psychopath women in movies.
This is a horror movie?
It's by Stephen King. It's more of a thriller, but I would definitely check it out because it's just so great because Kathy Bates carries this film amazingly. And you also got James Caan. James Caan is a writer, obviously, like in every fucking King movie. Takes place in like Maine, you know, Northeast.
And directed by Rob Reiner, who did
Rob
H2O.
Reiner, right?
Yeah.
Rob Reiner did H2O?
Pretty sure. Let me double check for you. But yeah, that's what rang a bell.
Rob Reiner's a great director.
I'm probably wrong. Everyone's
love
screaming
it.
at their iPods.
Everyone's
right
like, God
now.
damn
You're
it.
fucking wrong,
You
asshole.
stupid idiot.
I think I'm wrong.
I thought it was Steve
Hold on,
Miner
hold
who
on.
did H2O.
Minor Reiner. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. All right.
Good thing we cleared that up. No, you're right. You're right.
Getting lots of hate mail.
Yeah, there we go.
James Caan is this writer who gets into an accident in the middle of nowhere, car accident, and he is rescued by Kathy Bates, who she takes him back to his cabin. He has broken legs. She sets him up nicely in the bed, whatever, takes care of him. She's a obsessed fan of his who doesn't really like the fact that he's ending his most famous series. And it is just so creepy because it's funny listening to Stephen King actually talk about this film on Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments. This film was actually in, I think,
it was
in the top 20.
Yeah, it was.
This is one I suggest you check out. It's interesting. King himself says, like, as a writer or, celebrity, I guess, you have nutty fans, and this is the ultimate nutty fan movie.
Sure.
And I think that's just so cool, So it was just, it is slow at times, but the fact that it's just these two people in the house and he's being held captive, and she's like so sweet because she's someone like you would want to bake cookies with, but yet you
bake cookies with.
Right. But then you turn around and she's a complete psychopath at the end of the day, and she pulls it off beautiful. I mean, talk about turning on that nutty from sweetness to crazy. Kathy Bates does it well. One of her best roles of all time. And
she won Best Actress in a Leading Role, an Oscar.
Good for her,
yeah.
As she should have. I'm telling you, even if you don't like the movie, you have to agree. I don't know why people wouldn't appreciate this film, but it's such a great film. All right, moving on to number 6. I got Silence of the Lambs. We talked about this one earlier. I basically said all my opinions. That night vision scene, very creepy. Jodie Foster carries the film. I really have nothing else to say about it, so I'm just going to move on.
Okay.
Number 5, Cube from 1997. This is the original Saw movie. I mean, it's just great. It's really a mind fuck of a movie. At the end of the watch, you're like, wait, what the fuck did I just watch? It's basically, it's like these people, just everyday people, a group of them, are placed inside this giant fucking cube that's almost like a maze. And in each room, there's certain, like, rooms of death, I guess you would say. And it's totally like Saw. And I think it's a great, interesting concept. Some excellent deaths in this movie. And it's great because they leave it all unexplained at the end. But I think that's why it makes it so great. Because I think if they would have told you what it was, it takes away from the creepiness of, the whole film that you just watched.
This is the guy who did Splice.
Okay.
Did you see Splice?
I did. That I saw one time. It doesn't have any replay value to me.
No. Have you seen it on rewatch?
No, I haven't. I saw it once in theaters. That's it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard the same thing. I've heard rewatch value, it's bad. That's
Yeah.
why I've only watched it once, and I
Right.
loved it, so I left it.
Okay.
So
Maybe sometime down the road I might check it out again.
yeah.
But I don't remember it being one of those like, oh wow, that was so entertaining. It's more of just like that was fucked up.
Yeah.
I
gotta watch these movies.
Yeah, check out Cube. Especially if you're a fan of Saw and just mind games. Very psychological. Number 4, I got the remake of Night of the Living Dead from 1990 with Tony Todd. Candyman, This is another great role he's in. I'm a big fan of, obviously, the original Night of the Living Dead. One, great zombie movie. I could go on and on about why the 68 version is just so great. But I like the 90 version because, it is updated. But you could tell that they respected the original material. And what really carries it, I think, is Tony Todd's performance. He's really great in this film. He's very similar to the black guy from the first, from the original one. The Ben character, but he's a little bit more of a badass in this one, I think, and I think that's really why I appreciate it. For the 1990, I think it was great special effects, and it's actually directed by Tom Savini, who is,
Oh yeah.
we love Tom Savini.
What? I had no idea this was even remade.
Yeah, this was. It's funny, not a lot of people know about it. I actually own this on DVD, waiting for it to come out on Blu-ray. This was another film I grew up watching, and it's just fun. It's goofy at times. Some of the acting is hysterical because they're just so bad. But in the end, it is just like the original. It is not shot for shot, but basically the same things happen pretty much. But I definitely would say check it out. Great performance from Tony Todd. I can't really say it enough. He really carries this film along, and I actually like this ending better in the remake than I do the original. And what I like about the remake is that to back up why remakes are good sometimes is they took the character of Barbara, who in the original basically just sat on the couch and spaced out the entire time. And in the remake, they made her a badass fighting chick. And I think that's awesome because...
And you love badass fighting chicks, so...
Well, yeah, I mean, how can you not? Especially what she's been through. In the beginning of the film, you know, she goes through a lot. And she gets to the house, and she doesn't turn into the typical crying girl, like, I can't do this. You know, nothing pisses me off more when you have that one hysterical girl. It's like, go, carry on without me. I can't do this. You want to smack her. Barbara kicks ass in this film. And there's times where she even calls out Tony Todd, and it's just great. So I think these two actors really do a great job with this film. So I was really big fan of this remake. Moving on to number 3 is I Know What You Did Last Summer. Fuck you.
What a fucking joke.
What an awesome movie. This is another, Scream, but obviously it's Kevin Williamson. Another. Hey, fuck you. I didn't interrupt you during your list, so shut up.
I'm sorry. Time to put the foot down.
Big fan of this movie.
What is this number? What?
This is number 3. And I'll be talking about this on our next podcast because I actually just checked this out recently. So.
I cannot wait.
Great story. I think it's really a good story, and it's very realistic, because it's just I don't want to say too much because I am going to talk about it later on.
No, just, talk to it now. This is the show.
All right,
we'll talk about it again on Friday.
Alrighty. Sarah Michelle Gellar, Jennifer Love Hewitt, amazing. Ryan Philippe gives a great performance. Freddie Prinze Jr. sucks.
I can agree with that. I can agree with the characters.
Yeah,
but I mean the end result is.
I think the end result is
pure
great.
Steaming pile of diarrhea.
What would you have preferred the ending to be then?
To be someone that you set up the characters for this payoff that was this person.
But you want like another unmasking thing like Scream. No, see, this is why I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, but at least
it's
introduce the fisherman character somewhere.
I don't
subtly in the background or something.
They kind of do towards the end before he is revealed. They do, and you're like, oh wow, this is taking a nice turn. I think it would have been stupid of a whodunit. Oh, it was one of Jennifer Love Hewitt's friends the whole time. But to me, it's so
but you need
cliche.
to introduce the characters. Introduce him.
While I agree with that, it does work in I Know What You Did Last Summer, I think. And, it comes out of left field, but it makes so much more sense, and I think that's great motive for the killer at the end. And
I think it's a great setup.
One of the best chase scenes of all time is when Sarah Michelle Gellar is being chased around the town. And ironically, it's, fucking 4th of July, and the town's fucking empty, of course.
I don't even remember that.
One of the best, my favorite chase scenes is Sarah Michelle Gellar getting chased by the fisherman. She's running through the store. She's running down the back alley. Sarah Michelle Gellar really proves she's a great scream queen in this film. I mean, fucking just... And this scene goes on for a solid 15 minutes. So it's a great chase scene, and, it's just... It really is cool. It's one of the best chase scenes, I think, in horror movies. That's a bold statement. But very cool. And Sarah Michelle Gellar is just great as always. So.
She's hot.
She's she's only like 20 years old in this film. So
Gellar or Hewitt?
Gellar all the way.
Yeah,
they're both gorgeous.
I might have to lean towards Hewitt.
They're both beautiful.
Her knockers.
It's funny. Jennifer Love Hewitt actually looks great in this film.
I don't remember I'm looking at the poster now. She's hot.
She looks great in this film. I mean,
Let's
obviously
pull up some
she's
stills.
older, but she's like the young, sweet, cute girl. So it's pretty. It's definitely watchable. She does a great job. And it's
look at her wetness in this Google image here.
She's great.
Look at the wetness on this.
Let's check this.
Oh fuck! It just blanked out on me. God damn it, Tom.
Oh, thank you,
Hold
Google.
on.
You cock.
You could keep. Hold on. What the fuck? There you go. Quick.
Yeah. See, she looks great, and it's just funny because
she looks so great wet. She just looks so great.
I don't know, man. I really do like the twist ending, and I do like who the killer is. So I thought he was pretty good.
It ruins it for me, which is a shame. There's nothing worse than the ending ruining it.
You have to admit, though, that it is a good slasher film. Otherwise, I mean, forget the ending twist.
I remember the barn scene, like when she goes to. I think Hewitt goes to see Anne Heche for. Is there a second time she sees her? Yeah, I remember saying to myself, Jesus, this
And-
needs to move along. This is a little ridiculous.
Okay, well, it's funny. This
I
was
don't remember any
originally-
kills. How do people die? I
yeah,
don't remember.
Well, one guy gets hooked under the chin
Okay.
and pulled forward. Pretty graphic. It's funny because this was based on a book from the 70s. And
Okay.
the book from the 70s is totally not a slasher flick at all. And it's totally different.
I'll tell you what Williamson does consistently, whether his movies are shit or not. He writes teenage characters
Well,
amazingly.
I was hoping you would say that because he does create very interesting, diverse characters.
When you look at Cursed, the Scream franchise 1 through 4,
Right.
I know what you did last summer. I can't think of any, but like, look at those. The characters are written greatly.
They are, and even though Cursed was pure shit, there is depth to those characters, and there is reason to care about them.
It's pushing it a little far, but at times,
I'm leaning more towards Scream, and I Know What You Did Last Summer than Curse.
Okay,
Obviously,
all right.
I wasn't praising
Yeah,
Curse. There's
I know.
nothing good about that film. It's a complete shit show. It is a little bit better than Scream 4, I will say, in my opinion.
That's a good question.
Curse.
I
or
would
Scream?
I take Scream 4 because
Wow.
it just has a ghost face. So
Okay.
I'll take him any day.
All right.
Yeah.
Moving on to number 2, Scream 1, of course. You know,
Woohoo!
great film, totally set, definitely. I think we could agree the first of like the soap opera horror films are character-driven slasher flicks, where with the drama of it's Dawson's Creek, but it's a killer film as well.
That's my favorite kind of movie.
I know it is, and Scream is the godfather of all of them.
Yeah,
It's
is.
the original one, and
right.
it's so funny how so many films tried to copy Scream. You know, like I said earlier, Urban Legend has that Scream formula. Valentine from 2001 has that formula. So Scream is just great. You know, I talked about how much I liked it with you earlier, so got really nothing else to say. And number 1, this is no surprise at all. We got The Blair Witch Project. And the reason why I prefer this over Scream is just because of the scare value. The end of that film is terrifying. And you were right when you said the setup is great. It is a very organized film, which I really like. Because there are so many horror films out there that have a big plot and lots of, like, I guess, history to jam in. You know, it has so many facts to jam into the beginning of the film. But Blair Witch does it great. You know, they talk about, hey, we're making a movie. They get the interviews with the town people. They go out in the woods. What more can you want? Everything is laid out for you. And it's great. And the interview scenes alone are just great. I think very interesting.
Yeah. And they're convincing because
They are.
The end result is like, fuck, that old guy was right.
Yeah, and that's great. Exactly. And it really is the best found footage film, you know? I think still to this day.
I would say definitive.
And it's funny, it doesn't have special effects.
It has nothing.
It doesn't. And I love that they didn't break character and turn into a Hollywood movie. They said, hey, we're going to make like a home movie type thing, and they stuck with it, and that is great. What more could you want? And you know, some people don't like it because they're like, oh, you know, you don't see the witch. Good. I was praying they wouldn't show the witch because if they show the witch, come on.
You're not even the witch. I think you're just waiting for something.
But you know what? The things that happen when they're out in their tent at night and there's the baby crying.
Oh, God.
Is that holy shit? Do you not feel like you are there with them?
Yeah.
You're
But
like,
that's why I said the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
It did. I was not even sure what to think.
I
I was
can
like,
see- yeah,
nothing happened. I was so bombarded because, especially now, we are so used to the reveal.
Right.
There is no reveal in this movie.
Right.
It's horror.
Right.
It's the genre.
And that's what makes it. I can understand people being disappointed on a first watch, but Blair Witch is a must for rewatch. Definitely check it out again. Same thing with Paranormal Activity, which I talked about on last week's podcast. You know, you're waiting for that reveal. Instead, you're getting story. But you know what? You watch it again, and you're like, you know what? I prefer this. Because if they would have slapped in a fucking witch at the end in the house.
That's what I'm saying.
It could have been scary, but it would have been too cliche, too forced.
Not even cliche. It would have been... Okay. You know what? Cliche might be the right word. Typical.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you're just waiting for it, and it doesn't happen, and that's why the movie has big balls.
Right. Huge.
Huge.
Massive.
Is that all?
That is it. That is my top 10 bests of the 90s.
That's our best, so let's start talking some shit.
Absolutely. Very
I'll start
excited.
my list.
Please do.
What is this, the worst? I have 3 worst of the 90s. These are and I have a definitive worst.
All right.
Let me see what's worse here. Okay, well, wait, what's worse? Okay. Number 3. I Know What You Did Last Summer. Terrible movie.
Oh,
I mean,
for fuck's
just
sake.
the worst.
Come
you know,
on,
you have a
worst?
slasher that is, he's a spoiler alert, is a fisherman that we never got introduced to. Similar to Friday the 13th, we never got introduced to Mrs. Voorhees. You're copping out. The characters are good. This is just, it's a perfect example of why an ending could ruin a movie. And this, for me, is that. I don't say that too often. And I Know You Did Last Summer does that so well. And especially coming from Scream, right? What year did this come out? 97? Yeah, okay. So the year that Scream 2 came out. And just riding on the heels of that. And the setup is so good for it to cop out like that. And it does get boring. I mean, the climax of the movie is shit. Just shit. And the fact that I think it's interesting the fact that there are little, there is such a small group of characters. But like I said before, I don't remember anybody dying. I don't remember the deaths. It's reminiscent of something like Scream 4 because it's written in terms of good characters. But I mean, do you care? Or even, the twist is the worst. I don't remember any kills. The very end is fine. I think she's in the shower, right? I remember that.
Yeah.
But totally unmemorable. I remember the ending just fucking driving me crazy, and not even that. Even the build up to the end was like, what? Okay, whatever. I don't remember anybody really dying. Whatever. So yeah, number 2 would be People Under the Stairs.
A lot of people will agree with you. I've never seen it.
Fuck this movie. Wes Craven, you fucked up again. Little black kid fucking, this could be an amazing movie. That's my point. Like, this movie could be so terrifying with these older couple, and they keep they keep people in the fucking basement, and you don't even know who these people are. They're creepy. And halfway through the movie, they become the kid's friends, and the kid's trying to get the fucking girl because he kind of likes her out of the house. The best part about the movie is the parents, but I mean, that can only go so far in terms of plot and who we're following, which is the little kid. Ving Rhames, characters like that are ridiculous in this movie. I just remember, even because people say this is a horror comedy, and I don't really like horror comedies too much, but I mean, why not make this a straight up horror film? There's nothing wrong with that. Even make the character a little older if you need to. But I mean, there's some bad acting in here. There's bad character development. The fact that the movie's called People Under the Stairs, and the people under the stairs don't pay off. The villains become the parents. It should have been called Parents in a House. It shouldn't have been called People Under the Stairs because they end up being nice people. Which is such a creep. It's a great title for a movie. It's a great if you just think about People Under the Stairs.
Sounds scary.
It sounds scary. It's not scary at all. At all. What a big missed opportunity. Another by Wes Craven.
Oh boy.
And the definitive worst of the 1990s. No doubt about it, this is the worst movie. Possibly the worst movie I've ever seen in cinema. And that's a bold statement.
Wow.
Is Freddy's Dead Final Nightmare. It's got to be the worst.
Okay, I've not seen it.
Because nothing's good about it. Fuck that movie.
All right, well said.
I mean, you got Freddy, I think there's a Bugs Bunny reference in there. He's on a broomstick, Wizard of Oz. He says, "I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too." No one is likable. I think the ending's in 3D. Am I not right? I think the last 10, 15 minutes I think is in 3D, and all of a sudden shit starts popping out of the screen. You're like, what the fuck am I watching? I think it's directed by some producer that was on board. I remember seeing the Elm Street Legacy, the 4-hour documentary. Did you see that?
Right. Yes, I have.
Yeah, I think it was that girl, and she had no experience, and they just wanted to, kill the franchise, and this was the final movie, and way to go out with pure shit, So, fuck.
What
a drag, and that's why Wes Craven's New Nightmare is fucking phenomenal. That's a little bit too much. I retract that statement. It's a good movie.
Okay.
There's some bad acting in there. And some cheesy scenes, but it's way better than any of the Freddy sequels, period.
All right.
All right, Tom. Fire away.
All right. Let's see. Worst. I got 3.
Nice.
I'm probably sure I could dig up some more, but this is just what came straight to mind. The Haunting, 1999, the one with Liam Neeson, Catherine Zeta-Jones. Brutal. Brutal. Owen Wilson is in it, playing his typical cocky self. Sorry, he doesn't work in this film.
The CG's kind of cool, though, right?
No,
Isn't like the
that's
ghost
what I
cool?
hate. No,
I hated
about
it
this
a really long time
what
ago.
I disliked about this film was the special effects. And granted, it's 1999.
And you just said that for House on Haunted Hill.
Right.
Cop out.
But they're still terrible in The Haunting. Like, come on. If House on Haunted Hill could pull it off with decent CG, why can't The Haunting, which is a huge production film?
I mean, talk about Hollywood. I would compare House on Haunted Hill to The Haunting because it is Hollywood. Liam Neeson,
The Haunting,
Zeta-Jones,
is more
Owen
Hollywood.
Wilson. Come on.
Yeah, and it's from the director of Twister. I mean, awesome movie. You know, Joe Dante completely fucks up.
Talk about bad CG. Watch Twister.
For 1996, I mean, come on.
But people say you say shit like that. Jurassic Park came out in '93. Everyone, shut up.
Yeah, but you know what?
Jurassic Park. That doesn't mean anything,
Jurassic
Tom.
Park had really good CG, though.
What?
It had really good CG.
No, if you look at it now, it still looks like CG, and there's some green screen in that movie.
But it looks great, though.
No, not really. But there's some decoloration. But I mean, the fact that we could put CG stuff, dinosaurs on screen. And you say, "Oh, well, it's 1999. Bad CG was the norm."
Yeah,
no,
we can land on the moon.
We
we can't land. Yeah,
it wasn't, Tom. You know what I mean? It was fucking. What was that? 6 years prior, you had dinosaurs. So.
Well, I thought the dinosaurs looked great in the Jurassic Park.
They
films.
do. Watch them now in HD. You know,
yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. I have not.
Great movie though. Gives a fuck.
Yeah.
Ignore the CG. Who cares?
Yeah. But brutal storytelling as well. You know, you it's just the typical ghost house, you know, hard knocking and stuff. Oh, God, scary. Oh, it's suddenly cold in here. Now, I know that happened in the original, but I'm sorry, but that's not scary.
Have you ever seen the original?
I saw the first half of it. I couldn't get through it because it's very slow. And, I mean, not that it's bad, but it's just not very slow.
Yeah, I wanted to see it. I think I will eventually.
But you know what? For the original film, that the hard knocking and the cold air, that works back then. Sorry, doesn't fly in 1999.
The house is pretty cool.
The house is very cool.
I like the house.
I like
houses.
the music is great in the film, but plot is just it's silly. It's stupid. Towards the end of the film, you know, everyone is running around the house scared of the ghosts, and we have the one girl by the name of Nell. She is the one who has solved this mystery, and she's basically saying, "All right, Liam Neeson, Catherine Zeta-Jones, you want to hide from the you want to get away from the ghosts. You have to play hide and seek with the ghosts. You have to do that." Fucking ridiculous. A statue, like a bird statue, comes to life. Catherine Zeta-Jones turns around and screams at it, but her screams are terrible because she's like yelling at it. Just laughable horror going on. Liam Neeson turning to Nell saying, "Oh my God, he wants us to play hide and seek. What is this, a game? What's going to happen?" It's just terrible movie.
These are lines from a feature film
and
made.
Like, huge, like millions of dollars, like $100 million budget here, and this is what they come up with. Give me a break. I think the budget was spent on the actors.
Look at the cover on IMDb. What a terrible cover.
It is. It's got the typical floating heads.
Yeah. Fucking Scream, man. Everything's ripped off of Scream. If we could say one thing out of this conversation, Scream is Godfather of the 90s, I would say.
Absolutely. And I think really what you can call it is, if it's not the Scream lineup, you could call it the Dimension lineup. Because look at all the Dimension films.
Those Weinsteins.
They're all
crafty bastards.
Crafty bastards. All right, moving on to another terrible film. Leprechaun with Jennifer Aniston. Killer leprechaun in a cabin in fucking South Dakota.
Jennifer Aniston, enough said.
Terrible.
I didn't even know she was in that movie.
Oh my God, it's so bad. And I think it was right before Friends, but she's so bad because it's like she gets a shotgun in the movie. The leprechaun's right there. She runs away. Come on. I understand you're in a state of shock, but come on, are you that dumb?
It's a comedy fantasy horror,
It's fucking ridiculous. You know, it's a little 3-inch leprechaun running around killing people. I hate it for the same reasons.
I
hate it for the same reasons I hate Child's Play.
Man, you don't like
But-
little things crawling
No,
around
because that's
killing.
stupid. I would kick it and not die. You get killed by a doll, good. You deserve it.
All right.
All right, Leprechaun, a fucking joke. Okay.
A movie called Leprechaun. I could buy into it. Never saw it. Never saw it.
It's hysterical. You watch it with friends.
The tagline is "Your luck just ran out."
Yes, it did when I checked out this film. And to me, the worst, and I'm going to get a shit load of hate for this, because I know horror fans everywhere love this film, and I think we could agree on it. It's Army of Darkness. Complete shit fest.
Well, I never saw it.
I thought you... Okay, what
Watch
sucks
the first
about...
10 minutes.
Okay,
And I
what
shut it off.
sucks about Army of Darkness is it takes away from the creepy cabin in the woods setting, takes Ash, adds more comedy to him, and puts him in medieval settings where they're the same types of demons from the previous films. Really? That's it?
Well,
You-
it seems like it's totally detached from Evil Dead.
It's very detached, and it's just completely ridiculous. And just some of the animation in there is just such a joke. And I know I'm going to get crucified this because I am going to
Crucified.
mention Sam Raimi later on as well.
Mm.
Not a fan. Not a fan of him. I think he's very overrated. I think he goes for that gimmicky type of comedy horror that just is all in your face. But you
He's
take away from
definitely a one-trick pony.
he is, and it's just you're watching this and you're like, this is just flat out stupid. Like, this is just ridiculous. And I am going to discuss him later on. You probably already know why,
Sure.
but I'm sorry. This was a complete joke of a movie. I could see it having cult status, but just stupid shit. Like, there's a fight, like underground when they're Ash and like the witch, and she's like, "You will die," and I'm like, "Come on." It's just incredible.
It seems brutal. I never
It's
saw
such a
it, but
stupid fucking movie that
Yeah.
I felt like it's like the director Sam Raimi was playing with action figures when he
Yeah,
was a
yeah,
kid. He's
yeah.
like, let's film this,
yeah.
and that's what Army of Darkness is to me. It is a complete joke. I saw this film many years ago. I even blind buyed it because it was like $5 on
What
DVD,
a joke.
and that was a waste of $5. Could have gotten a Big Mac, but
Done.
just complete shit fest of a movie. But you know what? I don't really see why people like it, especially coming from something so great like the first Evil Dead. Even the second Evil Dead, which I don't like as much, is even better than Army of Darkness. It still carries the story along. This film is just completely random, and it's just taking the character of Ash, making him a funny guy, like, oh, I got a chainsaw attached to me, and fighting demons with a smile. Completely retarded. So that's my worst 90s right there, man.
Sounds awesome, man.
Good
Way
stuff.
to end off the show. All right.
Right? Went out
Well,
on
no,
a
we're
bang.
gonna do some open forum stuff.
Okay.
Do you have any ideas?
I don't.
Okay, so we're done.
All right, man.
Unless we have anything else to add on the 90s. I would just like to close in saying that, obviously from this conversation, Scream, obviously that franchise in general was the godfather of
Yeah.
the 90s horror genre. It paved the way. I think you could say that Scream is the last of the original horror slasher films,
Right.
really. I mean, that's after that, what came? Nothing. Reboots, remakes.
Yeah.
So even that franchise fell a victim to that.
I think listening to the show, you can really tell from both you and I that Scream really is our foundation.
Yeah,
What really got us into this and what we're all about at the end of the
absolutely.
day.
I could agree with that.
So I think that's really... I know for me, Scream is what got me into horror, so... I don't know how it was for you.
I would say Michael, Halloween.
Okay.
But I mean, Scream, in my later years, digging through things, I remember watching the Scream trilogy back to back to back, 3 nights in a row, and I'll just never forget it.
Right.
I didn't even see them in the theater.
Wow. I was 10 years old when the third one came out.
Yeah.
So to see that in the theater was pretty cool. But I would have fucking loved to be there for Scream 2, the movie scene with Jada Pinkett Smith.
Oh, man.
Would have been great.
Would have been gold. It
Would've
still
been
is,
great.
though. That's why it's so great. You see it on the small screen, and it still pays off completely. Shows
Right.
you how special these movies really are.
Absolutely. Very, very dear to our hearts here.
All right. So we have a show on Friday. Then we're going to do a 2000 show, which will have a top 10 best. And I think I have 8 worst.
Yeah, I could come up with a shitload worse.
Yeah. And I think we're going to have some verses, right, with some remakes and originals.
Absolutely, yeah.
Get into some deep discussion. Should be a hell of a show.
All right.
So that'll be next week.
That'll be next
Check
week.
out horrorbid.com.
Most interactive horror movie website on the net.
And check out everything non-horror, whenthelightscomeup.com. Follow me at twitter.com/cinematicfanatic without the I in cinematic. Until the next podcast, I'm Joe.
And I'm Tom.
Catch you later.
Peace.
Take a little walk to the edge of town and go across the track where the viaduct looms like a bird of doom as it shifts and cracks, where secrets lie in the border fires and the humming wires. Yeah, man, you know you're never coming back. Across the square, across the bridge, past the mills, past the stacks. On a gathering storm comes a tall, handsome man in a dusty black coat with a red right hand.
I can't wait to hear these songs be played. Oh, crap, I'm not logged in. Crap.